Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are standing in your kitchen. It is early in the morning. Soft light comes through the window. You reach out and pick up a banana from the counter. Feel its weight in your hand. Notice how it curves like a smile. The skin is bright yellow, smooth, almost glowing. You peel it slowly. The fruit inside is pale and soft. You bring it close to your nose. There is that sweet smell, that familiar, comforting smell. You take a bite. The taste is gentle, simple, perfect. This happens every single day in millions of homes around the world. We eat bananas for breakfast. We slice them into our cereal. We pack them in lunchboxes for our children. We blend them into smoothies. We grab them when we are in a hurry. The banana is everywhere. It is in every grocery store, every market, every fruit bowl. It is so common that we never think about it. It is just there, always there, waiting for us. But my friends, this curved yellow fruit is hiding something. It is keeping a secret so big, so dark, and so beautiful that it changed the entire world. This is not just a fruit. This is a witness to human history. This is a survivor of empires. This is a victim of violence. This is a miracle that might soon disappear forever. The banana has traveled thousands of years to reach your hand. It has crossed oceans. It has survived wars. It has been worshipped as sacred. It has built fortunes and destroyed democracies. It has fed millions and enslaved thousands. Behind that innocent yellow skin is a story of ancient farmers, greedy corporations, deadly diseases, and one of the most shocking truths in modern agriculture. So tonight, let us sit together. Let us look at this fruit a little more closely. Let us peel back more than just the skin. Let us peel back time itself. Are you ready? Then, let us begin this journey. Let us discover the secret history they hid from you. Our story begins a very long time ago. We must travel back 8,000 years. We must go to a green, misty valley in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. The place is called Cook. Imagine thick jungle. Imagine rain falling every day. Imagine giant plants with leaves as big as a human body. And among these plants, growing wild and free, is the ancestor of the banana. But here's the thing. These ancient bananas were not like the fruit you know today. They were not soft. They were not sweet. They were not easy to eat. Inside these wild bananas were giant seeds, hard seeds, seeds as big as your thumbnail. The fruit around the seeds was tough and bitter. You could not simply peel and eat these bananas. They were not food, not yet. But the people of Cook were patient. They were observers. They watched the plants. They noticed something strange. Some banana plants produced fruits with fewer seeds. Some fruits were a little softer, a little sweeter. These people understood something profound. They understood that nature sometimes makes mistakes, and these mistakes can be gifts. So they took cuttings from the special plants. They planted them. They cared for them. Generation after generation, they selected the best plants, the plants with the softest fruits, the plants with the smallest seeds. They did this for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, and slowly, miraculously, the banana changed. The seeds became smaller and smaller, the fruit became larger and sweeter. Until one day, a banana appeared that had almost no seeds at all. This was a miracle. This was a fruit that grew without pollination. Scientists today call this parthenocarpy. But the ancient farmers of Cook did not need a scientific word. They knew they had created something magical. They had created food that could feed their families, food that was easy to grow, food that tasted like sunshine. From Cook, the banana began its journey. It traveled to other islands in the South Pacific. It reached the Philippines. It spread across Southeast Asia. Wherever people traveled, the banana traveled with them. It moved slowly, passed from hand to hand, from island to island, like a precious gift. By 5,000 years ago, the banana had reached India. In the ancient Buddhist texts written around 600 BCE, monks spoke of the banana with reverence. They called it the fruit of paradise. Some believed it was the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden, not the apple. They saw wisdom in its shape, in its gentleness, in the way it nourished without violence. In 327 BCE, a young conqueror named Alexander the Great led his armies into India. His soldiers had traveled thousands of miles from Greece. They had seen many strange and wonderful things. But when they saw the banana for the first time, they stopped. They stared. What was this fruit that grew in hanging bunches? What was this plant that was not quite a tree? They tasted it. They were amazed. They wrote about it in their letters home. In India, they said, there grows a fruit that tastes like honey but needs no bees. The banana continued its journey. Islamic traders carried it along the ancient trade routes. By the 11th century, it had reached the Middle East. Arab scholars wrote about it in their books. They praised its nutrition. They used it in medicine. They planted it in gardens from Baghdad to Cairo. The banana moved west with the expansion of Islam. By the year 1200, it had arrived in North Africa. By the 1400s, Moorish farmers were growing it in southern Spain. For thousands of years, the banana moved peacefully across the world. It was shared, it was celebrated, it was a symbol of tropical abundance. It fed families, it sustained communities, it was part of ceremonies and festivals, it was offered to gods in temples, it was planted near homes as a sign of prosperity. The banana was a gift that kept giving. Cut down one plant and 3 more would grow in its place. It was generous, it was reliable, it was beloved. But here is where the story changes. Here is where the beauty begins to crack. Because in the late 1400s, European ships set sail for the New World. And those ships carried more than just explorers. They carried empires, and they carried bananas. Portuguese sailors took banana plants from West Africa to the Canary Islands, then to the Caribbean, then to Brazil. Spanish ships brought different banana varieties from the Philippines across the Pacific Ocean to the Americas. By the 1500s, the banana had reached the continents it had never known before. It had completed its journey around the world. For a while, the banana remained small and local in the Americas. It grew in villages. It fed families. It was planted near houses alongside other crops. It was still just a fruit. It had not yet become a commodity. It had not yet become a weapon. But that was about to change. Because in the late 1800s, something happened in America, something that would transform the banana forever, something that would cover its sweet innocence with blood and darkness. The age of the banana empire was beginning, and nothing would ever be the same again. In the year 1876, something unusual happened in Philadelphia. America was celebrating its 100th birthday. The city held a grand exhibition. It was called the Centennial Exhibition. People came from all across the country to see wonders from around the world. There were machines, there were inventions, there were displays from distant lands, and in one small corner, there was a banana plant. Most Americans had never seen a banana before. They gathered around the plant and stared. The leaves were enormous. The fruit hung in strange, heavy bunches. The shape was curious. The color was exotic. Some people were brave enough to taste the fruit. It cost them 10 cents. This was expensive, very expensive. 10 cents could buy a loaf of bread. But the taste. Oh, the taste was unlike anything they had known. It was sweet without being too sweet. It was soft without being mushy. It was instant food. No cooking. No preparation. Just peel and eat. A young man named Frederick Upham Adams stood in front of that banana plant in 1876. He looked at it with wonder. Years later, he would write about that moment. He said he had seen pictures of banana trees in books as a child. He had imagined that people in tropical countries just walked through jungles and picked bananas whenever they were hungry. He had thought life in the tropics must be so easy, so simple. But as an adult, he began to understand. Nothing about the banana would be simple. Nothing would be easy. Not for the people who grew it, not for the lands where it grew. At the same time, far away in Central America, a young entrepreneur was building a railroad. His name was Minor Cooper Keith. He was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1848. His family was wealthy. They were connected to powerful people. Keith was ambitious. He was bold. Some would say he was ruthless. He traveled to Costa Rica in the early 1870s. The Costa Rican government wanted a railroad. They wanted to connect the capital city of San Jose to the Caribbean coast. They wanted to move coffee to the ports. They wanted to join the modern world. Keith took the job. But building a railroad through tropical jungle was a nightmare. Workers died by the hundreds. Malaria killed them. Yellow fever killed them. Accidents killed them. Snakes killed them. The heat killed them. Keith needed to feed his workers something cheap, something that grew fast, something that would give them energy. So he planted bananas along the railroad tracks. Here is where everything changed. Keith noticed something. The bananas grew incredibly well in Costa Rica. The soil was perfect. The rain was constant. The temperature was ideal. And there was another discovery. If he put the bananas on his trains and sent them to the coast, he could ship them to the United States. There was a market. There was demand. Americans were curious about this exotic fruit. They would pay money for it. Keith began to export bananas. At first, it was just a side business, a way to help pay for the railroad. But the profits were shocking. Bananas were cheap to grow. They were easy to harvest. They grew year-round. And in America, people could not get enough of them. The banana was becoming popular. It was becoming fashionable. It was becoming profitable. By the 1880s, Keith was no longer just a railroad builder. He was a banana king. He expanded his operations beyond Costa Rica. He bought land in Panama, in Nicaragua, in Colombia. He bought thousands of acres, then tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. He built more railroads. He built ports. He built ships. He was creating an empire. But Keith was not alone. In Boston, a businessman named Andrew Preston had also discovered the banana. Preston had started a company called the Boston Fruit Company. He imported bananas from the Caribbean. He created a refrigerated distribution network. He got bananas into stores. Across the eastern United States, he made the banana available. He made it affordable. He made it ordinary. In 1899, Preston and Keith made a decision that would change history. They merged their companies. The new company was called the United Fruit Company. Almost immediately, it became the most powerful corporation in Central America. It controlled 75% of the banana trade in the United States. Within 1 month, it absorbed 7 independent banana companies in Honduras. Within 1 year, it owned more land than some countries. Within a decade, it controlled entire nations. And this is where the beauty ends. This is where the darkness begins. The United Fruit Company was not just a fruit company. It was a shadow government. It owned the railroads that carried goods to market. It owned the telegraph lines that carried messages between cities. It owned the ships that sailed between countries. It owned the ports where those ships docked. In some countries, it owned the only roads, the only electricity, the only communication systems. If you wanted to do business in Central America, you had to go through United Fruit. There was no other choice. The company created what we now call banana republics. This phrase has become a joke. People use it casually. They say it about corrupt governments, about dysfunctional politics. But originally, banana republics were real places. They were countries where the United Fruit Company had more power than the elected government. Countries where a corporation decided who could be president, where a corporation decided what laws could be passed, where a corporation owned so much land that it controlled the economy completely. Honduras was one of these countries. By the 1920s, banana exports represented over 60% of Honduras's entire national revenue. Almost all of those bananas belonged to United Fruit. The company did not just grow bananas in Honduras. It governed Honduras. It paid local politicians. It wrote trade agreements. It decided tax policies. The government of Honduras existed to serve the United Fruit Company. In Guatemala, the situation was even more extreme. United Fruit owned 42% of all the land in the country. But here is the shocking part. The company only farmed 15% of the land it owned. The rest sat unused, empty. The company held on to this land for 2 reasons. First, if disease struck their active plantations, they could abandon them and move to fresh land. Second, and more sinister, by controlling so much unused land, they prevented competitors from entering the market. They prevented local farmers from growing their own crops. They created a monopoly by creating scarcity. The working conditions on United Fruit's plantations were brutal. Workers were mostly black laborers from Jamaica, Barbados, and other Caribbean islands. The company recruited them with promises of good wages and steady work. But when they arrived, they found something very different. They lived in cramped barracks. They worked 12 to 14 hours a day in the burning sun. They were paid in company scrip, not real money. This scrip could only be used at company stores, where prices were inflated. The workers were trapped. They could not save money. They could not leave. They were not technically enslaved, but they were not free. In 1928, workers in Colombia decided they had suffered enough. They went on strike. They demanded better wages. They demanded the right to organize. They demanded to be treated like human beings. The strike spread across the banana zone. Thousands of workers stopped working. The United Fruit Company panicked. They called the Colombian government. They demanded action. On December 6, 1928, the army arrived. Workers and their families had gathered in the town square of Ciénaga near Santa Marta. They were waiting to negotiate. They were waiting to be heard. Instead, they were met with soldiers. The soldiers opened fire. No warning, no negotiation. Just bullets. Men fell. Women fell. Children fell. The shooting lasted only minutes. But when it ended, the square was covered in blood. Bodies were loaded onto trains. The trains took them away. They were dumped in the ocean. They were buried in mass graves in the jungle. The government said 13 people died. Witnesses said hundreds died, maybe thousands. We will never know the exact number. The United Fruit Company made sure of that. This massacre became known as the Banana Massacre. The Colombian government tried to hide it. The United Fruit Company denied responsibility. But a young Colombian writer would make sure it was not forgotten. His name was Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Decades later, he would write about it in his novel 100 Years of Solitude. He would describe the bodies on the train, the blood in the square, the lies of the government, the silence of the world. The banana empire had a body count, and nobody seemed to care. But the United Fruit Company was brilliant at one thing. They were masters of propaganda. They understood that Americans needed to feel good about buying bananas. They needed to believe they were supporting progress, supporting civilization, supporting poor countries that needed help. So the company launched massive advertising campaigns. They created a fleet of white passenger ships. They called it the Great White Fleet. These ships offered pleasure cruises to Central America. Americans could sail to exotic lands. They could see banana plantations. They could feel like explorers, like adventurers. When the ships docked, tourists were taken on carefully staged tours. They saw small, pretty sections of plantations. They saw smiling workers. They saw clean houses. Everything was theatrical. Everything was fake. The tourists did not see the barracks. They did not see the disease. They did not see the poverty. They did not see the fear. They went home and told their friends how wonderful the Banana Company was, how it was bringing civilization to the jungle. The company also hired scientists to write positive articles about bananas. They published booklets with titles like Food Value of the Banana, Opinions of Leading Medical and Scientific Authorities. These scientists claimed bananas could cure diseases, improve digestion, increase energy, extend life. Most of these claims were exaggerated or completely false, but Americans believed them. Banana sales soared. By the 1940s, the United Fruit Company was one of the most powerful corporations in the world. Its tentacles reached into the highest levels of American government. When World War II ended and the Cold War began, the company saw a new opportunity. They could wrap themselves in the American flag. They could claim they were fighting communism. They could say that any government that challenged them was a threat to freedom. And in 1954, they proved just how much power they had. In Guatemala, a young president named Jacobo Arbenz had been democratically elected. He was not a communist. He was a reformer. He looked at his country and saw that 2% of the people owned 70% of the land. He saw that United Fruit owned vast territories that sat empty while Guatemalan farmers had nowhere to plant their crops. So he proposed a simple land reform. The government would buy unused land from large landowners. They would pay them based on the value the landowners had claimed on their tax forms. Then, they would give this land to poor farmers. United Fruit was outraged. They had been underreporting the value of their land for years to avoid taxes. Now they would be compensated based on those low values. They demanded full market price. When Arbenz refused, United Fruit went to Washington. They went to the Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles. His law firm had represented United Fruit for years. They went to the director of the CIA, Allen Dulles. He was John Foster Dulles's brother. He had served on United Fruit's board of directors. He owned shares in the company. The Dulles brothers listened, and they acted. The CIA organized a coup. They trained rebels. They spread propaganda calling Arbenz a communist. They supplied weapons. They coordinated with the Guatemalan military. In June 1954, the democratically elected government of Guatemala was overthrown. Arbenz fled into exile. The new military government gave United Fruit back its land. Democracy in Guatemala died. It died for bananas. It died for corporate profit. It died because one company had the power to destroy a nation. The blood on the banana was invisible, but it was there. In every bunch sold in America, in every fruit bowl, in every lunchbox, the banana was no longer just food. It was the taste of empire. It was the sweetness that came at a terrible cost. But while the United Fruit Company was building its empire of power and violence, something else was happening. Something quiet, something invisible, something that would destroy everything they had built. In the 1950s, workers on banana plantations began to notice something strange. Some banana plants were turning yellow, not the healthy yellow of ripe fruit. This was a sickly yellow. The leaves would wilt. They would collapse around the trunk like a skirt. When workers cut open the stems, they found discoloration inside. Red streaks, brown streaks, black rot. The plant was dying from the inside. The disease spread fast. It moved from plant to plant, from field to field, from country to country. Scientists studied it. They discovered the cause, a fungus. Its name was Fusarium oxysporum. It lived in the soil. It attacked the roots of banana plants. It blocked the water-conducting tissues inside the stem. The plant would starve. The plant would suffocate. The plant would die. And once the fungus was in the soil, it stayed there for decades. Farmers could not remove it. They could not poison it. They could not stop it. The disease was called Panama disease. It had first been noticed in Panama decades earlier, but now it was everywhere, and it was killing the most popular banana in the world, the banana that built United Fruit's empire, the banana that Americans loved, the Gros Michel. The Gros Michel banana was beautiful. It was large, it was sweet, it was creamy. It had a rich flavor that the bananas we eat today cannot match. People who remember the Gros Michel say it tasted like what a banana should taste like. Perfect. This was the banana that had traveled from grocery stores into American hearts. This was the banana of the early 20th century. But the Gros Michel had a fatal flaw. It had no defense against Fusarium, none at all. When the disease reached a plantation, every single Gros Michel plant would die. United Fruit tried everything. They abandoned infected plantations and cleared new jungle. They moved to fresh land. But the disease followed them. It traveled in dirt on boots, in soil on tools, in water running. Downhill. You could not escape it. By the 1960s, the Gros Michel banana was functionally extinct. You could no longer grow it commercially. The plantations were graveyards. The economic damage was staggering. At least $2.3 billion lost. Entire regions of Central America that had depended on banana exports collapsed into poverty. The United Fruit Company was in crisis. The banana industry was dying. But the industry found a replacement, a banana that had been growing quietly in gardens and small farms. A banana that was resistant to the Panama disease fungus. This banana was called the Cavendish. It was named after William Cavendish, the Duke of Devonshire, who had received the variety from Mauritius in 1834. The Cavendish was not as delicious as the Gros Michel. It was blander, less creamy, less complex. But it had one crucial advantage. It could survive. The entire banana industry changed. New infrastructure was built. New shipping methods were developed. The Cavendish had different ripening needs, different growing requirements. It cost billions of dollars to make the transition, but by the 1970s, it was done. The Cavendish became the new standard. It became the banana that the world ate. It became the only banana that most people would ever know. The crisis was over. The banana was saved. Everyone believed the worst was behind them. But they were wrong, because history was about to repeat itself. In 1989, banana farmers in Taiwan noticed something terrible. Their Cavendish plants were dying. The symptoms were familiar: yellow leaves, wilting stems, rot inside. But this was impossible. The Cavendish was supposed to be resistant to Panama disease. That was why it had been chosen. That was why it had replaced the Gros Michel. Scientists investigated. They made a horrifying discovery. This was not the old fungus. This was a new strain. It was called Tropical Race 4, TR4. And this time, it could kill the Cavendish. The disease moved slowly at first. It spread across Taiwan, then to the Philippines, then to China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Australia. Everywhere it went, banana plantations died. By the 2000s, it had destroyed over 100,000 hectares of Cavendish bananas. The damage exceeded $400 million, and it was accelerating. In 2013, the disease jumped beyond Southeast Asia. It appeared in Jordan, then Pakistan, then Lebanon. Scientists were terrified. The same pattern was repeating. The same extinction cycle was beginning. In 2015, TR4 reached Australia's Northern Territory. In 2019, the news that everyone had been dreading arrived. TR4 was confirmed in Colombia. Colombia is one of the largest banana exporters in the world. The disease had reached the Americas. In 2021, it was detected in Peru, another massive exporting nation. Colombia declared a national state of emergency. Here is the truth they do not want you to know. Every single commercial banana you have ever eaten is a clone. Not similar, not related, identical. The Cavendish is not grown from seeds. It is grown from cuttings. Every Cavendish plant in the world is genetically identical to every other Cavendish plant. There is zero genetic diversity. This means that when one plant is vulnerable to a disease, every plant is vulnerable. When one plant can die, every plant can die. This is not natural. This is not how nature works. In a natural forest, every tree is different. Every plant has unique genetics. If a disease appears, some plants will be resistant. Some will survive. The species continues. But in a banana plantation, all the plants are the same. When a disease that can kill one arrives, it can kill them all. Why did this happen? Because of the empire. Because the United Fruit Company and companies like it chose profit over biodiversity. They chose uniformity over resilience. They wanted every banana to look the same, to taste the same, to ripen at the same time, to fit the same boxes, to satisfy the same markets. They created a monoculture, and monocultures are death traps. Scientists around the world are now in a desperate race. They are searching through over once indifferent banana varieties that still exist. They are looking for genetic resistance to TR4. They are using gene editing. They are crossing wild banana DNA with commercial varieties. They are trying to create a banana that can survive, but it takes time. It takes years, maybe decades, and TR4 is spreading now. Climate change is making everything worse. Rising temperatures allow the fungus to thrive in new regions. Extreme weather events spread contaminated soil across borders. New pests appear. Old diseases become more aggressive. The banana is under attack from every direction. Experts say it is not a question of if the Cavendish will go extinct. It is a question of when. Some say we have 10 years. Some say 30. Some say it could happen faster if TR4 reaches Ecuador, the world's largest banana exporter. One scientist said it perfectly. It only takes a single clump of contaminated dirt, literally, to get this thing rampaging across entire continents. The banana you ate this morning might be one of the last generations of its kind. Your children might grow up in a world where Cavendish bananas are just a memory. Just like the Gros Michel is a memory to us. Come back now. Come back to your kitchen. Come back to this moment. Look at that banana on your counter. That simple, curved, yellow fruit. You see it differently now, don't you? You are holding 8,000 years of history. You are holding the work of ancient farmers in Papua New Guinea who patiently transformed a wild plant with hard seeds into a gift of soft sweetness. You are holding a fruit that traveled across oceans with explorers, traders, and pilgrims. a fruit that was offered in temples, shared in markets, planted as a symbol of peace and abundance. But you are also holding the legacy of empire. You are holding the fruit that built corporate kingdoms, that overthrew democracies, that killed workers who dared to ask for dignity. You are holding the sweetness that came at the price of blood, the convenience that came at the cost of exploitation. And you are holding something even more profound. You are holding a warning. You are holding evidence of human arrogance. We thought we could control nature. We thought we could simplify it. We thought we could make every plant the same and there would be no consequences. We were wrong. Nature is complex for a reason. Diversity is not weakness. Diversity is survival. The banana is teaching us a lesson. But we must listen. Right now, somewhere in the tropics, indigenous farmers are still growing dozens of different banana varieties: red bananas, purple bananas, short fat bananas, long thin bananas, bananas that taste like apples, bananas that must be cooked. This diversity still exists, but it is fragile. And it is disappearing as corporate monoculture spreads. The future of the banana depends on what we choose today. Do we continue down the path of uniformity and control, or do we return to the wisdom of those ancient farmers who understood that nature's diversity is a treasure, not a problem? Place that banana down gently. See it with new eyes. It is not just food. It is a messenger from the past. It is a warning about the present. It is a question about the future. Every banana is a miracle. The fact that a seedless fruit can exist at all is extraordinary. The fact that it traveled across the entire world and fed billions of people is remarkable. The fact that it survived one extinction and might not survive the second is heartbreaking. Now you know the secret they hid from you. The banana is more than a fruit. It is a mirror. It reflects everything humans are capable of. The patience to transform nature over thousands of years, the creativity to spread a plant across the world, the generosity to share it freely, but also the greed to claim it as property, the violence to protect profits, the short-sightedness to sacrifice the future for the present. The banana does not belong to corporations. It does not belong to empires. It belongs to the earth. It belongs to the farmers who still tend it with care. It belongs to the future if we are wise enough to protect it. The secret is out. The story is told. What happens next is up to us. Now you know. Now you see. The banana will never taste quite the same again,